allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Lord, we just thank you so much for the opportunities that you give us in this great country. We just ask that you guide us and direct us, give us wisdom and discernment, and help us to make the right decisions for all the citizens of Walton County. In Christ's name we pray, amen. We got minutes from the last meeting. Everybody have a chance to go over them?
I make a motion that we approve the minutes from a 13 May meeting.
Have a motion? Got a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Mac. We got a bunch of them that want to continue, don't we?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Matt Carpenter for the Planning Department, CARPENTER. We do have a number of requests to continue. Would you like to take care of those?
Yes, please.
Under our excuse me. Under our legislative items, item number 2, the Walton County Civic Use LSA and zoning change. We'd like to request that to be continued to the July 8th Planning Commission meeting at 4 p.m. in this location.
Okay. We have, anybody want to make a motion?
I make a motion we continue this item till 8 July.
We have a motion?
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
We also have a request to continue item number 3, the workforce housing methodology, while we continue to work through the changes in state law and work with certain stakeholders that are proposing affordable housing. We'd like to request that to be continued to July 8th, 2021 at 4 p.m. in this location.
Okay.
Move to continue.
Motion
Second.
and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion granted.
That moves us to item number 4, the Deering small-scale amendment with rezoning. We have a request to continue that to the July 8th Planning Commission meeting at 4 p.m. in this location.
Okay.
Motion to continue.
Motion second.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion granted.
And we have one more request under our QJ items. That's the South Walton RV Resort. We have a request to continue that to the July 8th, 2021 Planning Commission meeting at 4 p.m. in this location.
Motion to continue.
Second.
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And with that, that would move us to legislative item agenda number 5. Amending the general ag and large-scale ag future land use map category allowable densities when road frontage exists. We recently had a public workshop as directed by the Board of County Commissioners. And I'll ask Kristen Schell, who conducted that workshop, to update us on that in this particular item.
Okay. Thank you, Mac.
Okay, so yeah, Mac is right. We had another workshop. This went to the after you guys voted to approve the proposed amendments, and then it went to the county commission, and the county commission wanted to provide some additional opportunities for input. So we had another public workshop that we advertised, and we had a pretty good turnout. And in your packet, you'll see I summarized the input that we got at that workshop, and there were some pretty significant issues raised related to, basically public safety infrastructure, police and fire, as well as school infrastructure, questions and concerns about, this circumventing the normal rezoning process and just granting sort of the increased density without the opportunity for public involvement, public vetting of projects. So, I know you've had time to read that, and if you have any questions about that, I'm happy to answer. One of the things that was suggested at that workshop is that we work together with public safety professionals, the school board, and just try to understand the impacts of the proposed amendment on those facilities and services. We also wanted to point out, and I brought a map that shows the county maintained roads in case anybody's interested in seeing where those actually are. It's difficult to quantify the number of units that would be achieved amendment because of the 100-foot requirement and how that could be configured. It could be any number of different ways. So I can't put a hard number on it like I did with the previous amendment where we changed the grandfather date essentially to January 1st, 2021. And that is something to consider too, is that amendment did occur and is currently effective. So it went to the state, came back, adopted, all of that. So that amendment's in place, and we haven't had a whole lot of time to see sort of what the effect of that was, which kind of reset a lot of lots and made them, viable for either transactions or single-family home construction that might not have been previously. Kind of where we are.
Anybody got any questions for staff?
I've got a lot of things to say about this. I don't know if we want to hear from the public first and
Well, if
Zoom.
you're just gonna make comments, yeah, we'll wait on that, and we'll hear from everybody else. But if you got questions, we'll get questions, because they may answer a lot of your stuff too.
Kristen, did you say you did get input from the emergency in school?
Michelle, she's on Zoom. She was at the meeting, but we haven't had any formal input from them. That was suggested at that workshop that
Right.
that might be something we would want to do, is have a group or working group or some kind of, further analysis and study of what the effect of the amendments would be on those facilities and services.
Any other questions for staff?
Good. I think copies of the Farm Bureau letter that's been submitted as public comment may have been circulated to each of the members. We'd like to ask that that be entered into the record.
Okay. Thank you, Mac. Okay, I guess we need to open up public comments. We got anybody in the audience that would like to speak?
Mark Walker, W-A-L-K-E-R. I brought up that I believe it circumvents a proven process to do this. It takes away the ability for public comments. If you all consider it, one thing I ask you to do to say, if an application comes in to subdivide large-scale ag, general ag, into separate parcels, that be looked at and really not mature or become effective for 3 years. And what this will prevent is developers and real estate agents coming in, quickly buying large plots of land, subdividing, selling them off. It also gives planning the ability and 3-year time frame to know that, hey, somebody's going to subdivide their land. They're going to take this 100 acres and, make it 50 lots. And maybe we need to look into this situation as far
They'd
as,
still have to go through the process on that because it's a minimum of 5 acres in size.
right?
So you couldn't cut 100 acres into 50 lots.
Well, 20, let's say. No, I'm sorry, 20.
Well, and they'd have to have the road frontage and all that. So there'd be some other things, but I understand what you're saying.
Yeah. And then you have to look at the ag portion too. These people have received an exemption on their taxes because supposedly they got working farms. And I think you need to go retro back to see if there was actually income on these farms, and that if there wasn't, that maybe they need to go back and pay the tax base that would have applied to them in that zoning. So all I'm trying to do is
You mean if they subdivide it?
Yeah, if they subdivide it,
Okay,
look
gotcha.
back in the past 3 years, if they actually do have ag revenue and qualified for it. But I don't really support it. I think the current system as it stands is sufficient for growth, and it doesn't allow for the greed and disrespect that comes with development and growth. That's just my thoughts.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anybody else in the audience like to speak?
Hey, David Herring, just some general information I want to talk about. Yes, there was a workshop done. There was some information that was presented. I believe some of the information was left off from what was provided to you guys. One of the things that was kind of addressed is compatibility. Michelle mentioned compatibility on their information. You mentioned a 25-foot buffer, okay? What's a 25-foot buffer when you've got residents next to agricultural land where you're spreading chicken manure, where you're got cattle operation, where you're spraying and things like that? Well, the problem is planning is going to be dealing with a large amount of, or code enforcement is going to be dealing with a large amount of complaints. So residential businesses or buildings or whatever being built in a location is going to cause issues and complaints that's going to come in. It's been proven. You go all over the state, you see it. Our neighbor in Okaloosa County will tell you the same thing. So one of the things I kind of mentioned was, we've got this lot of record thing. I'm not in favor of doing the 10 acres. I mean, not splitting it any less than 10 acres. But we've already got a lot of record that's going to create 6,950 homes. That's the number that she gave you, okay? If half of those develop, and I mentioned this before, and I mentioned it at our meeting, well, that's why a school board needs to be involved. If half of these are built in houses, okay, where we're going to put most residences on average is about 2 children per house. So when you get 2 children per household, that's 7,000 kids that's going to be coming in our school district just from this split or this allowance in our county. Where's the forethought? Where's the thought of who's going to pay for this? How are we going to have it? We don't have school bus drivers right now to drive school buses. They're begging for school bus drivers. The other thing is we don't have the structures. We're at maximum capacity. Paxton and Walton High School is at maximum capacity. So this is where the land's at. So how's the school board going to compare for this growth other than stick them in little portable buildings? And then when the storms come in and everything else and start coming in and we have severe weather, where are they going to put our kids for safety? So, and they're spreading them all over the place. Like I mentioned, with a lot of record change. Well, when you've got residential houses or you got a structure that's not anything to do with food to fiber, why isn't there a mandate that makes them do a 150-foot setback from property line? Why isn't there a 25-foot buffer line that's a tree vegetative buffer that requires it? So that was the thing that was brought up with a 25-foot was built within that 150-foot. I mean, that ag person right beside it, I can plant my crop right up to the line. I'm not building a structure, but if I'm building a barn or something like that that deals with food to fiber that's putting back into feeding us, then we shouldn't have, the buffer because we're using it for the actual agricultural purpose. We're not coming into these areas and making residential homes everywhere. So my thing is, I've got a few years left before I retire from my current job, and I plan to work full-time farming. And that's what I'm looking at is when I retire is to be able to farm. What about all these kids we're teaching right now about agriculture? Where are we looking for them? Where are we saying that our property taxes are fixing to go through the roof? I mean, information, I've talked with tax assessors, I've talked with people. It's just general knowledge. If our ag land, and when you have a piece of property and you have, say, 80 acres or 100 acres, and you say, well, I know I can split this land into 5-acre tracts throughout the county on this county right-of-way. Well, that tells that person, okay, well, I can get now $12,000, $15,000 an acre for this piece of property. So if I want to keep it together for you to use it for agricultural purposes, then, okay, well, I'll sell it to you for $10,000 an acre. Well, I'm sitting over here with my property that I'm trying to do ag land on, Mr. Richardson, Mr. Martin, several others, Mr. Braswell, several different people. Well, guess who's paying more property tax that owns large tracts of land? That farmer or whatever that's sitting there trying to grow stuff. So, and that's my concern is too, you're putting a large tax burden, or fixing to put a large tax burden on people that's doing agricultural operations in this county. Yes, we get a little bit of an exemption. It reduces the percentage, but as the bottom line goes up, it still goes up even with our exemption. 160 acres is what's homesteaded. After that, it's not homesteaded. Okay? That's just some of the general information and concerns I have. I just look at smart development. That's what I'm looking at. Why aren't we looking at this and saying next to close to where cities are located? Why aren't we just looking at a rezoning in those areas and going to, which is already a state residential, when you look at around Defuniak Springs, around Freeport, around Paxton, to say in those areas, okay, we could look at doing something like that. To say, we can allow it to 5-acre parcels if we want to. But let's stay closer to the cities where we have sewer, where we have water, and we're not dealing with this kind of stuff. So, like I say, I'm against it. I'm not against development. I'm against, not smart development. This is opening up Pandora's box. You can talk to any realtor you want to right now, and they can tell you if they can get 5-acre tracts, they'll sell them, and they'll sell wherever they want to sell them. There's other people that's come to me and says, we're sitting there taking these pieces of parcels of property. Have y'all looked at the map to see where all these blue lines are? It's over 12,000 county miles of road in Walton County. That's a whole bunch to be able to split up, and it's a lot of that property is all in those brown areas in general ag and large scale ag. The other thing is all these people on Highway 83, Highway 331, well, they don't have that option. They can't split theirs into 5-acre parcels. They got to go through the process. So my thing is that's where suits are going to come on the county for not allowing them to do the same thing that you're allowing on county roads is one of the other things. So why not let's look back and let's go back to something that makes more sense. Let's stay closer to the cities. Let's develop them. Paxton, Defuniak Springs, their population is pretty close to what it was 15 years ago. Freeport is what's expanding. Well, let's look at the areas where it's expanding and then start moving. With the state, from what I've understand, is the county is supposed to be providing, when they make a change in the land development code or the comprehensive plan, they're supposed to be providing a study. It's a study of growth for the county. And it gives you a percentage to when you're starting to go into general ag, large scale ag that has a higher density. Why are you increasing the density in these levels, in these areas? Where is that study at? The same thing with the amount of homes. I don't see why it wouldn't be that hard to give you guys a number to know how many thousands, hundreds of thousands of homes that now that you would be opening up for the county. So one thing's utilities. I mean, our infrastructure. I mean, these roads in North Walton County, most of them are one-lane roads. You have to pull over on the side of the road and wait for people to pass you. You start putting, she made the comment about the culvert systems and the drainage, et cetera. Well, we're going to have issues and problems all throughout North Walton County, and then the taxpayers will be trying to figure out how to pay for paving these roads and getting them back in proper shape. So all I can say is, I just see a smarter way of doing this instead of opening up for everything. Okay? Thank you, sir.
Thank you. You got any questions?
I'd like to ask him some questions, if you don't mind, Mr. Herring.
Sure.
I'm going to try and repeat some of the things that I think I heard you say just for my better understanding. But this is called the Comprehensive Land Ordinance Act.
Plan. It's a comprehensive plan.
And was developed, if I remember my homework, in 1996.
Yes, sir.
And that's the same one that's in place right now.
Correct.
Okay, so what they're trying to do is relax the standards. Now, this one-time get-out-of-jail-free card that happened earlier this year, for all the people that had the small tracks, did I hear you say that there was like 7,000, almost 7,000 of those homes?
There's 7,000 parcels or lots of record. That's just, that will be a lot of record just for not meeting the minimum standard. So I don't know if y'all remember or not, but about the 40 acres, if it didn't quite meet 40 in large scale ag and say it met 20 and it was in a large scale area, then now you're grandfathered and said you can build a house on it. If it was 3 acres in a 10-acre parcel, then now you're grandfathered in and say you can build a house on it. Well, that don't count for as well with one-time split, or not one-time splits, but multiple splits to immediate family members. So I know that was brought up before at the last meeting. So when you start multiplying things and any way to market, you know, if you're trying to get people to come to an area, you market to bring your family with you. We'll build multiple homes. Your kids can come, your parents can come, et cetera. And you can build it on 5 acres. You can build 5 houses on 5 acres. Because you got, so we're not talking about 1 house per 5 acres. That's one of the things that I believe a lot of people don't understand. I believe a lot of people in our comprehensive plan and in our land development code don't understand a lot of what you can currently do with it, like with the family. I know a few years back, I've had some people that's told me they've come to planning and planning told them, no, you can't give that to your child. You can't give that to your mother or father to build a house on because it's got to be 10 acres. Well, that was some misinformation that was being put out. I'm not saying it's current, but it was a few years back. So I believe there's a lot of information that our citizens need to understand of what they can actually do with their land currently. And I think that's where a lot of this movement was started, was because I think there was misunderstanding on a little bit of it on the public side. And once some information started getting out, they go, oh, well, why do we need to change it? Because they were thinking they could do a one-time split with one family member to give them a piece of property. That's what they thought. And that's not true. I mean, if you've got 6 kids, you should be able to give them a piece of property and let them build a house on it, live close to you, and, you know, continue on. But the thing that worries me is I know of a 600-acre parcel that's in North Walton County right now. It's bought by 38 Realty. It was bought less than 2 months ago. The reason that it was being bought is because they're counting on this to go through to start splitting up bed. It's all on county road. So that's something that we're seeing in different areas that's being purchased, waiting on something like this just to happen where they could go ahead and start busting up things. And we have Hammock Bay to start in areas and start busting up things. I know they're not on 5-acre parcels and tracts, but the way I understand it, the clustering actually could come into play as well to cluster some land from some backland. So that would cause more houses to be closer. So
I read that it didn't include clustering, but in what I read.
I'm pretty sure at our meeting we talked about clustering on it a little bit.
Well, I want to clarify that because I thought I read that it said you could not cluster. Yeah, I'll ask her in a minute. That's fine.
Okay, so right now, with no change in the land ordinance code, 7,000 homes can come online and be built right now if they wanted to.
If they wanted to, yes, sir.
And you said that they average and estimate 2 children per household. So that's 14.
If you did it at max, if you did it at half, it'd be about 7.
If you figured it at 2 children per household, that's 14,000 kids?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I think we have, 12,000 homes that's basically ready to go as soon as they can get sewer in Freeport. That's what some of the numbers I've heard from the development.
So how many kids are going to Paxton High School?
Currently, there's 868 kids at maximum capacity at Paxton High School.
Has the Walton County School District weighed in on this and how they're going to handle the influx of?
Not currently. I mean, I know there was people there listening, and I believe that they got their eyes open to how it could really affect the county and the school district of trying to find qualified teachers. Because right now, I mean, it's pretty bad when you've got teachers going online asking if anybody can substitute my class tomorrow or whatever. I've got a sick child. Can anybody please substitute for me? So that's telling us that we've got a major issue of trying to find educators So where we're gonna find these educators to educate these kids that will be moving in these areas? I know a lot of realtors or people that tell you, well, it's not gonna happen just overnight. It's gonna happen pretty quick. I mean, really quick, once it starts opening up.
And that's if we don't change anything.
If we don't change anything, we're still on,
7,000 homes coming online and the
On just
possibility of
that.
14,000 kids.
Yeah.
So the way you describe this 1,200 miles of roads in the north end in the area that's going to be affected, the way you described it, can school buses even make it down those roads?
I mean, they do, but they wait for other people to pass them. They have to stop and wait. And they used to get pulled out of the ditch all the time. The graders would have to go pull them out of the ditch, or somebody had to pull them out of the ditch for sliding
And during
in the ditch.
inclement weather, when we're having some bad rainy seasons and it's hurricane season and it's raining all the time, you probably can't even get down half of them.
No, sir.
So if we leave everything alone and don't approve it and leave it just like it is, we're still got 7,000 homes coming online and the possibility of 14,000 kids.
Just from the lot of record change.
And no water treatment centers and spray fields and sewage and,
Paxton right now is at maximum capacity on sewer. You can't even really build a house in Paxton right now because they don't have the sewer treatment. They said they're 3 years from having sewer in Paxton city limits, some of the areas to build houses. And I know Freeport or whatever is asking for a grant, I think, or to get money or whatever to help extend their sewer system. And I think one developer is even saying that they'll pay for the sewer or whatever to come out to them, et cetera, to extend it. So to be able to build more houses.
has the sheriff's office weighed in to talk about fire safety, public safety?
As far as I'm aware, no. Just trying to figure out why, our other constitutional officers are not involved in our public safety, why they're not involved to know what they could be looking at, where they've got a plan for what's coming, or what could come.
So if we do nothing, we've still got 7,000 homes and the possibility of 14.
Right, and they don't have to be adjacent to, they could be on private property or next to private roads. They could be along county roads, state roads. They're not subject to this 100-foot strip. Well, if you take 100-foot strips and you just start doing a bunch of 100-foot strips on it and you break it across a 40 or 80 acre, 40 acres or 80 acres of property, you can put a lot of houses on 5 acres because you can go back into that property that's not touched, the county road. So, I mean, it's, Williams Road, which is North Walton County, they've had 10-acre tracts sitting up there for years for sale. They're selling like hotcakes up there right now. All along Williams Road, they're clearing it like crazy right now, building houses that these kids will be going to Paxton High School. So I know the school has a 5-year plan, but their 5-year plan does not include, they cannot not building a new school like a secondary school because of the growth. They cannot build a school larger than capacity is needed at the current time, which makes no sense. But that's what the law reads, that they can't do that until the population's there, then they stick them in portables, and then they have to try to do something with them at a later time. And that's just something that I don't see for our kids' safety and for them walking all over them campuses and stuff. I just don't see it, and we're trying to keep them all enclosed in one location right now, so.
All right.
I noticed on one of these pages over here that current policy is being circumvented. Can you explain that?
Well, basically what I think Mr. Walker mentioned was our current system allows anybody to do this. They can go to the Board of County Commissioners, they can come to planning, and they can tell them, we want to change this to a state residential. We want to change it to residential. Well, if they do that, you've got to go through a public notice, and that way the neighbors knows what's going on. If you open this up this way, there's no involvement. It's circumventing the system. Yes, it costs you a little bit of money to do it. That might be something the county looks at and say, okay, if we're wanting to do this and we're wanting to allow this ability, why don't we look at reducing the fees associated with it to help these people do that? Same thing with somebody with hardship. If they're in a hardship and they need to sell property to pay medical bills, et cetera, I think Coastal Dune Lakes has something that deals with hardships for elevators and things like that. Or I think it's Coastal Dune Lakes. But anyways, they have an ability to go into these areas under a hardship and provide, the ability to split this land or to do something to be able to pay it, but you got to provide proof of, how you got to do it and why we need to reduce the fees or whatever associated with it. Yep, yeah. So that's just a way we could help out our citizens if they're needing to sell land for a hardship.
So why can you do certain things on a state road but can't do certain things on a county road? Shouldn't it
I
be the
don't know
same?
that he's a person to ask that. I mean, he's not exactly in an expert position here. If you want to ask that, you need to ask the staff that.
Right? Do you know why you can do certain things on state roads and can't do it on county roads?
Well, the state has some specific driveway separation requirements that are related to the posted speed limits on state maintained roadways. I think that's probably what we were referring to, and that's why this says county and not state, because we can't preempt state law with regard to driveway separation. For example, on Highway 83, up around Walton Road, the driveway separation distance, I think, is 600 or 660 feet based on the speed limit. Now, there are hardships where they let people cut driveways in a smaller amount, but that's their standard. And we couldn't pass a law that says you can have this land use change, which if you got 100 feet, which would put a driveway every 100 feet in opposition of the state law requirement that would require one every 600 feet, or would allow one every 600 feet. That's why we're only speaking to state law as directed by the commission. I mean, county maintained roads as opposed to state maintained roads for this particular policy.
Thank you, sir.
That was their direction.
Counselor?
Mac, I got a question for you. On a county maintained road, isn't there a requirement how wide they gotta be? And,
For new maintained roads, yes, sir, we do. If you're going to build a new road in Walton County, we have certain standards. We have policies that the board has adopted that allows the paving of existing county maintained roadways where there's not enough land to meet the standard county standards.
right,
Do have an option to do that, and we've got lots of roads that are sort of our legacy road network that were built back in the day, that weren't built to particular standards, or maybe we started improving a particular roadway, and we gained it by prescriptive easement, qualified statutory process. But we got a lot of roads that don't meet today's standards. We got standards for building new roadways. But we do have a lot that don't meet those standards, but they're sort of grandfathered in. That speaks to your question. Yes, sir.
My question would be on that. We have a lot of those county roads are 55 miles an hour speed zones. So we're going to stack a bunch of driveways on those roads and not have public safety involved with what the speeds should be on these roads to prevent crashes. I mean, that's one of the things that public safety should be involved in, to say, okay, we're going to have to reduce speed limits, we're going to have to look at this, but it should be a plan of once so many roads, so many houses get on this road, or they're so close together, we need to be looking at something like that.
Forward from the county commission back in November was 50 foot, 5 acres and 50 foot of road frontage. And the reason why it was increased to 100 is because it would avoid conflict with that. On most local roads, the driveway separation requirement is 50 feet. So we increased that to a bigger standard. But they would still have to meet those access management standards. It's really about the configuration of the lot, with the 100 feet of frontage, and it has to be a 5 acre lot. So it's about the size, but they still would have to meet the access management standards that are in the code.
Michelle, is there any stormwater plan or any type of culverts, sewage, any utilities? Are there any plans of that?
Now, this amendment would explicitly not require a subdivision plat, and that's the reason why it's 5 acres. 5 acres is sort of the cutoff for ERP permitting or DEP permitting for stormwater systems. So if you have a 5-acre development, essentially you're exempt from those stormwater requirements. So it would exempt platting and development order stormwater type review. That's an important point. Yeah.
So with us trying to push the Choctawhatchee Bay Clean Water Initiative through and the new improved hyper environmental friendly septic tanks to go in place where there is not sewage available, with all these tributaries that spider web all through the north end of the county that end up finding their way into the bay, are the old 50s and 60s era septic tanks in these water sensitive areas going to be allowed?
Well, I mean, septic tank permitting is
Hold on just a second. Somebody check their phone, please.
yeah. So septic tank permitting is
Thank you.
handled by the state. The county does not permit septic tanks, and there are certain criteria for location, size, type of septic tank. You know, so if I had a 5-acre tract and I went to the state for permitting and I said I want to put it right next to the creek, they would probably say no. You know, so that's kind of how that works. That's not a county permit function, but the chance for more septic tanks is there because you have potential chance for more lots.
Yeah, because it said it's
Yeah.
staying with the same standards it had before. It had to be a half-acre tract.
When we put the when the Turkey Creek RV thing, camp was approved, they had 75, 100 RV camps with sewage going into a septic tank right there on the bay. So if they were allowed to do that, I don't have any confidence that putting a lot of 7,000 septic tanks close to water-sensitive areas is going to be enforced or looked at. So there's my comment there.
Okay. We got anybody else who'd like to speak on this that's in the audience?
Braswell, Brswell. I'm gonna hold you up. I like to adopt what Mr. Herring and Mr. Walker presented. I thought it made a good case. I'm not gonna hold you up your time or repeat, so questions, I'd be glad to answer them. But I oppose them.
Okay, thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Kristen, I got one. During your workshop, did you have anybody there that was in favor of this?
There was nobody in the workshop. I asked that question specifically, and while we're on that topic, I do want to enter into the record my workshop materials, which are the notes I took at the workshop. And the red dots represent where each individual at the workshop came up and put a note next to their top 3 issues with the proposed amendment. So everybody had a chance to review the notes at the workshop as well as vote on the things that were there. And then I did send out a copy of those notes to everybody at the workshop that provided their email for review and comment, and I received no comments.
Thanks, sir. Do we have anybody on Zoom that would like to speak? We do. Okay, Barbara, you there?
Good afternoon, for making me to attend the public work. There was another public work on safety, and that was held in the South.
Barbara,
David, Meister, and to the other gentleman that came up. It just says my internet is unstable. Can you hear me?
every other word.
Okay. I believe what they're saying, absolutely, positively, something you accept. I'm a resident of
We're
South.
not getting you now, Barbara. Can you hear me? We're not really
You're not
understanding.
hearing me?
No, it's like every third word now.
Horrible. What's going on, whether it's side or my side. Hey, Dan, just raise your hand. out, because I can see you, okay? Dan, if I out this, oh, shoot.
I can hear about every second or third word.
This is bad. I don't know how to make it I can get in. I don't know how I could do this any better. But opening Pandora's box, if you pass this, if you support this, it's a one-size-fits-all. I believe Herring is you would take each as it, you would give the public support. I am from South Walton, but I live in one Walton, so that I am standing in for this. My concern is, why are we doing this amendment? I have from Mr. Carpenter and Kristen, but I understand why this is coming even out as an issue. Is it planning is on overload, that they don't want to take one step at a time?
No, ma'am. Hold on just a sec, Barbara. She's going to answer your question for you.
In
thank you.
in my analysis here, I provided a complete timeline of this amendment. November 24th, 2020, the Board of County Commissioners directed staff to look into this amendment. That's where it came from.
So it started with the Board of County Commissioners. They
Right.
they brought it up, I
All
think.
right, now we have a different Board of Commissioners. And I think they're looking
No,
at it a
ma'am.
little bit
No, ma'am.
different.
It's the same commissioners.
November 24th was a seating of all the current commissioners, and we were directed as staff to bring back that proposed amendment with that language. We modified it from 50 feet of road frontage to 100 feet to be more consistent with some of our other existing access management regulations. But our direction came directly from the Board of County Commissioners.
Okay,
Hold on just a second.
Also, that planning staff, we don't ever do anything that has not been directed us to do or voted on for us to do. Even if we undertake a neighborhood plan or any effort, that goes to the county commission for authorization for staff to work on that. I want to make that clear.
Right, and the planning commission doesn't authorize the planning department to do any of this stuff either. So it's coming from the county commissioners.
So,
okay, thank you. And your
Barbara, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Lee, do you mind?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. I have reason to believe that when the BCC asked the planning department to look into this, that what they were doing, and a lot of this is how I interpreted it, is that they wanted to get some information. They wanted to find out whether or not this would be a good idea or not. And during the course of what we've been doing over the last several months and the information that the planning department's brought forth and the workshops that we've had and talked to the citizens that's being affected by this, they got the information they wanted. And we'll find out. I think we got a hint on how they feel about this when they kicked it back to us. They wanted information. They were seeking information. They didn't think it was a good idea. They didn't think it was a bad idea. They were just seeking information. And what we've been doing over the last several months is exactly what they wanted us to do, is give them information and to study this and to discuss it. So that's what we're doing right now.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think they thought they were helping the farmers and giving them an advantage with their properties. And then I think what they found out was that most of them don't want it. In fact, very few, from what I can tell, are in favor of this. So I think you're right. When they kicked it back, they saw what was going on. The workshops were not in favor of it. Obviously, nobody showed up at the last one in favor of it.
So Barbara, we're just getting information for them like they wanted. And I think they got the information they want now. And
Well, I appreciate that, and I'm going to stand with the farmers. And like I say, I'm from South Walton. I'm not speaking from any organization. I wish I had a time to support David Herring in this, but I think my voice here is important. I hope your commissioners do not. Your job is to recommend. I hope you do not recommend that this amendment be passed. I don't even want, I just, again, we're not taking away property rights. That's the biggest issue that I think that what we have now are developers versus farmers. That's how I look at it. Those developers can have a chance to develop what they want, but they have to go through a process. And what I'm hoping you can see, it is a Pandora's box. It is not a one-size-fits-all. It's way,
I think we just lost you, Barbara. But I don't think it was the intent of the commissioners to try to do something to favor developers. I think they thought they were doing something for the benefit of the farmers, and it's just not playing out that way. The farmers don't want it, so I think that's becoming pretty obvious. So anyway, we got anybody else on Zoom that would like to speak? Okay, then we'll close public comments. Commissioners, got any other questions for staff or anybody else? Dan, why don't you make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion that we not approve any changes to the land code and that we leave it as it is since it's been in 1996.
Okay. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Have a recommendation to deny. To deny, that's correct.
To deny any changes.
All right.
Well, to deny this change.
This change.
Deny what's proposed.
Right, deny this proposal, yes. And I tend to agree with you. I haven't seen any, we've had nobody speak for, in favor of it. So if, you know, it was done to try to help the farmers and they don't seem to think it's going to help them. So why would we want to push something on them that doesn't benefit them?
You're right.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries.
I would like
Motion to deny carries.
I would like to mention something to the planning committee, to the planning department, the planning department. With the possibility of 7,000 homes coming online, Mac, y'all got a lot of work to do.
Those are not 7,000 new lots. That's the total lots that would be available as lots of record that do not have dwellings on them presently. So, while that seems like a lot of those already were there. So that's not 7,000 new lots. It would take much more detailed review to determine exactly how many new lots would be created because we'd have to do title search on pretty much every one of those.
Thank you.
If you have time, visualization, it's really.
It was in our package, so I looked at it.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
But yes, sir, just to speak to that, the most recent, the May version of the market graphics research study for the 8 northern Gulf Coast counties indicates that Walton County for the next 5.5 years, to meet the demand that's projected based on their research and the existing conditions in Walton County, 150 new single-family lots in platted subdivisions available every month for the next 5.5 years.
Say that again. How many?
150 new single-family lots are needed in Walton County in platted subdivisions each month for the next 5.5 years to meet the demand.
Is there any master plan for the north end that didn't exist when the south end exploded a few decades back? Is there a plan in place so that we can not have the gridlock system that we have in the south? Can we do it a little better in the north this time?
Well, we certainly have the comprehensive plan, which speaks to land use changes or land use entitlements. But the mobility plan that we are moving through the process is that comprehensive plan. For the first time, we are proposing a comprehensive transportation plan for the entire county. It's different in each of the sections, as you well know, because each section of the county has different needs. But that's exactly what we're trying to do, create that comprehensive plan so we don't become Okaloosa County or Bay County. But it's a 20-year plan. It's going to cost a lot of money, and we got to figure out how to pay for it. But I think your point is we need a plan.
Yes, sir.
And if we don't have a plan, then we don't know what we got to pay for.
Right.
So that's what we're trying to do. We met with Freeport this past week. We'll meet with Defuniak Monday afternoon, and we'll meet with Paxton on Tuesday before we come back to the BCC. But those are joint meetings with the BCC. But we're trying to come up with that plan that meets the needs of South Walton, that meets the needs of South Central, North Central, and North Walton.
Thank you, Mac. Y'all got your work cut out for you.
All right, Mac, what's next on the agenda?
The Defuniak's
Monday and Tuesday of next week.
Monday and Tuesday of next week.
Thank you.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. We're moving into the quasi-judicial section of our agenda tonight, and if we could have
Open the
those
public
folks-
hearing first for the quasi judicial,
All
I'll
right,
swear 'em in.
we'll open the public hearing for the swearing in.
Anyone wishing to speak on the quasi judicial items on the agenda needs to please stand and raise their right hand. Please repeat after me at this time. I do hereby swear or affirm
I do hereby swear.
that the testimony I present will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Sir, thank you. We close public comments now, or to leave them open?
Well, you're in public hearing. So
Public hearings, I'm sorry.
you're in a public hearing, which will carry through all that small scale.
Gotcha, okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We are moved to the last agenda item tonight, which is number 7 on our printed agenda, the Holly Grove subdivision Phase 2. This is a major development that's been reviewed by Tim Brown, and I'll ask Tim to introduce it to the commission.
Thank you.
Good evening, Tim Brown with Planning and Development. I apologize for my phone. I forgot to turn the ringer off.
We didn't notice.
Good, good. So this is a major development application submitted by Jenkins Engineering requesting approval to develop 38 single-family lots on 11.96 acres with a future land use of residential and a zoning of neighborhood infill. It's on the east side of Old Ferry Road. Phase 1 is on the west side of Old Ferry Road. It was approved for 5 single-family lots in February of this year. Here they're asking for 38 lots. The proposed density would be 3.18 units per acre. I handed out a public comment that I received for this project yesterday. And with that, I would ask the staff report be entered into the record, and I'll entertain any questions the board may have.
Any questions for staff?
Great,
Thank you, Tim.
Good evening, Commissioners. Jamie Eubanks with Jenkins Engineering. I'd be happy to take some questions, but I'll give you just a quick rundown of this particular project as well as Phase 1. I think it's important to know how we got here. This is a parcel of infill, which, as you probably know, can go up to 8 units an acre. And originally, certainly the developer looked to maximize this particular piece of property. There were discussions for townhomes, units up to 100 units. We met with the community multiple times, both at the site and here with staff on another occasion. And I will give the developer a lot of credit. He certainly listened to them, certainly took their opinions. Although Phase 1 did not come before you, it was originally 17 lots. They asked if he would consider reducing it down to 5 lots with larger lots along the water. He agreed. Phase 1 was approved, as Tim noted. And then they asked that these particular lots, the quote-unquote smaller lots, if you will, go to the east side of Old Ferry Road, which, as you can see, that's where we placed them, behind a natural body of water and wetlands. Because we are so close to the bay and some of the tributaries, we went above and beyond. Instead of doing the 25-year stormwater event, actually did the 100-year stormwater event. In addition, developers running new utilities and a new roadway up Old Ferry Road to his development. So that will also serve the public.
So he's going to have sewer?
He will, yes. We'll have sewer.
I knew that was coming, so I want to go ahead and get that one answered. So.
But I think it's rare when you see a parcel of infill that, quite frankly, when combined with phase one, is less than 3 units an acre. So with that, I'll be happy to take any questions.
All right, any questions for the applicant?
I'll
Thank
be here if you need me.
Thanks, sir. We'll open it to public comments. Anyone in the audience like to speak on this? Seeing none, do we have any on Zoom? Okay, is that Barbara Landry or Margaret Landry?
Hi, yes, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
Thank you. I do understand, I think the gentleman was saying that the developer wants to maximize the property. And while I understand that, this is environmentally sensitive land. Neighborhood infill guarantees him the right to have 2 to 8 units per acre. And I know that 3.14 is not 8 units, but it's still not 2 units per acre. And it just seems that given the environmental sensitivity of the area, you would opt, and, quite frankly, the infrastructure and all the other problems that we're having in Walton County, that we would opt for less density. Have they considered that?
Has who considered it?
The developer, I mean.
I'm sure he considered it.
Would they entertain less than 3.14 units per acre?
I'll let him answer that question. Jamie, you want to answer that?
To answer the question, I mean, yes, they have considered quite a lot. There were very specific conversations with the neighbors. As Tim and Matt can attest to, we met, we certainly worked through phase one, reducing that all the way down to 5 units, and then pushing what was left, which was originally going to be about 100 units, onto phase two. So certainly they've drastically cut density. I'll be honest, I don't think that they can financially go below 3 and still provide the public benefit of adding sewer, adding a roadway, to the benefit of the neighbors as well. So again, as I said, I think combined with phase one and phase two, to be under 3 units an acre and still provide the level that they're providing is something I personally haven't seen in nearly 20 years.
Thank you. You got any other questions, Margaret?
No, that's it. I'm just concerned about the density and the sensitive area. But thank you. I appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Anybody else on Zoom? Okay, we'll close public comments. Jamie, you want to?
She did mention the environmental sensitive areas, and that again is one of the reasons the code requires a 25-year storm event. They did a 100-year. With everything that's going on with the bay that we're hearing about now, that was one of their choices that they made as well. So that's why you see the large area in the center of the site. That is for a large wet detention pond.
Thank you, Jamie. All right, we'll close public comments, or if I hadn't already done that, we'll close them. Any questions for the applicant or staff? I stole yours, didn't I?
We had a really good example last month's meeting on how the developer and the citizens worked together for a long time to bring the density level from just about maximum capacity down to something that was a lot more acceptable for the neighbors and the general area. And I think Mac even said it set a record on how long this drug out. If the neighbors still think there's a density problem, I'm wondering if there's...
One neighbor does. We only heard from one neighbor. So I don't know that the neighbors think there's a density problem. I mean, if you've only got one person calling in that's not far, then it doesn't sound like you got a problem to me.
And they have already considered the density issue. They could put 8 units per acre, and they're going below that, significantly below that.
Okay.
And the project that you're talking about before had a lot of people that were involved with that process.
Right.
So it was obvious that there were issues there, but I'm not really seeing much here. It looks like they've already done a lot with the neighbors to get it to this point. and that's why you're not seeing a lot of people at this meeting or zooming in. That's just my opinion, but
And I appreciate it. Thank you.
all right, anything else? Yeah, public comments are closed right now. All right, commissioners, what are your wishes?
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. I think that's all we got tonight, isn't it?
Thank you, Commissioners. That concludes our agenda.
All right, thank you. We're adjourned.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. I heard that one.